All right, guys, so I'm doing this video by popular demand because Steven Crowder basically broke the conservative internet space by doing a video in which he exposes what he calls, or what is being called, the big con, which is just the big conservative media, I guess, con job, right? I guess that's the way that you can describe it, in which you have big conservative networks, whether it be news organizations. Again, you guys can think of the ones that, you know, could potentially be a part of that space. Again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it can be Fox News, The Blaze, Daily Wire, etc. Those are the big ones you can think of off the top of your head, in which Steven is saying, look, these guys have shady contracts with content creators behind the scenes that incentivizes censorship, that they're in bed with big tech when it comes to punishing content creators for basically pushing back against the powers that be, okay? The authoritarian left. The big cons are complicit in the censorship, all because they want to make money. That's essentially the thesis of his video, and I'm going to get into his video and give you guys my honest opinion on his video here soon. But I just want to point this out real quick because this is the title of the video. Jordan Peterson, who just got signed to the Daily Wire, actually tweeted out support for Steven Crowder. Okay, he says Steven Crowder on the hypocrisy of the conservative legacy media. He tweets this out, right? And then after tweeting it out, he took it down, right? He deleted it. So obviously, the powers that be, particularly at Daily Wire, probably told Jordan Peterson that, hey, you can't put this tweet out, this video out in support of Steven Crowder, who basically made a video saying that, hey, I'm about to try to challenge you guys, right? I'm about to get into your business and become competition. And that, my friends, is what all this really is about, right? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm going to play Steven Crowder's video here, and then I'm going to react to it, and I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion, and I'm going to try to give you guys as much behind-the-scenes insight in terms of what I know. A lot of this is going to be speculation, but some of it is based off what I've experienced in regards to how all of this kind of works, or how I believe that it works, and how it relates to what Steven is talking about. So we're going to get into this video, and I just want to let you guys know up front, I support Crowder and what he's trying to do. Okay, I support him. I agree with him in this video, okay? But I'm going to break it down from a few perspectives, mainly a business perspective, because you got to understand all this, what he's talking about really is about business, and I want you guys to understand kind of the business side of it, because it's more nuanced than what Crowder is actually saying. And I want to break it down so that you guys understanding. This video is really more about you guys understanding the business aspect of it more than anything and what's going on here. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. Crowder is going to talk about a contract that he was approached with, and the terms of that contract, why those terms are unfair, and why independent content creators should not sign on to these terms that he believes is basically incentivizing censorship on behalf of big tech. So let's get into it.
And I saw the clause come out. And I don't just mean unreasonable demands for control, but what I would argue are immoral terms that actually punish conservative content creators on behalf of big tech. And that's something that I just couldn't unsee. And I want to let you know, it's not the exception. It's the rule. Kids out there coming up. We need to build a bench here in this movement. It's almost impossible. Don't sign these contracts. I now know what you are signing out there. I have the luxury of not having to. I don't have to be here. I don't have to say this. Please, don't sign this. Certainly not without professional legal counsel representation. Do not sign something that includes, let me go through this. Effectively, full ownership of all your social media platforms, channels, in perpetuity, the rights to your content, name, image, likeness, even the ones that you've built. Don't sign contracts out there that include multi-million-dollar penalties for different... Let me read you an example of what I mean. And this would be if it was me. If Crowder fails to deliver a monthly content in any month or any of the quarterly content in the corner, including any and all ad reads, and by the way, all these contracts came with 3, 4, 5 ad reads per show, which would fundamentally change what this show is. Got to get those dollar bills. If I failed to do that, it would be a $250,000 reduction in fee per quarter. If, let's say, we did do everything per quarter, but annually maybe missed something, like let's say we went and did a Change My Mind instead of a daily show, which of course requires a lot more work, there'd be a separate $1 million penalty for that if you miss a single piece of content. And the amount of content required is not in line with, frankly, it's worse than Disney, it's worse than ABC, it's worse than NBC, it's worse than CBS. This is ownership of you and everything that you do. But here's, just to drive it home, don't sign something that has another $100,000 daily penalty if it's not signed off on beforehand. You get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day.
Yeah, so what Crowd is talking about here is the terms in a contract for when you sign up for a network. And I've been approached by a network before, okay? And I declined. But what he's talking about here is that you have some networks that will come with sponsors, right? So, again, you can insert any big name conservative, company that you could think of. For example, let's say the Blaze. I'm not saying this is the Blaze or whatever. I don't know who it is, but it could very well be. They probably have a ton of sponsors that they already have that say, hey, we're going to put these sponsors on your videos. And if you do ad reads and promos that the sponsors don't approve of, okay, AKA you don't actually read the ad the way they want it to be read, or you don't put the advertisement in there for whatever reason, then you can be penalized. The reason why they have those penalties is because the company doesn't get paid from the advertiser if the content creator doesn't do the ad to their satisfaction, right? The advertiser is the one that controls how the ad is done and how they want it to be done, okay? That is basically what he's talking about here, okay? Those are why those penalties are there.
Hey, anyone wonder why there's burnout in this? Anyone wonder why you have kids come up and they leave and never to come back? You think if you had that kind of a penalty, you think if someone said, hey, we're going to penalize you $10,000 every day you miss coming into work, you think you'd be stressed? This is worse than the left frames their contracts. Again, of course I didn't sign any of these things. But I now know what other kids are signing out there. And here's the worst part. Yeah, that's terrible. I think it's... I just think that's wrong to treat people that way. But this is where, in going through this, and I needed to take some time because, look, I've always tried to be a happy warrior, and I want to go back to that. I haven't been happy for a while. To be really, I haven't been happy for a while because when you know what goes on behind these scenes, and you see how many people are complicit, it creates an air of hopelessness. It really does. Where you think the people who are supposed to be linking arms and fighting with you, fighting for you, want to punish you. So here's the worst part. Do not, kids, under any circumstances, sign a contract with people who claim to be conservative, but will penalize you 25% for any demonetization or sponsor boycott. Look, let me read this to you. If any of the major platforms... Oh, no, sorry, that's the second one. Let me go back to the first one. There's another 20%. It's 45% if you get a content strike. Let's start with the demonetization. If blank is boycotted or dropped by more than 50% of the advertising partners, the company is not able to replace them within 90 days, the fee will be reduced by 25%. That's a sponsorship boycott. So that's saying, hey, liberals, boycotts work. They work on our guys. will punish them for you. Let me go on. Specifically, YouTube demonetization. If any of the major platforms issues a content strike such that Crowder cannot be monetized on such platform, and the company is not able to resolve the issue within 90 days, the fee will be reduced by 25% moving forward. Now, I thought this was a mistake because, you know, these people maybe didn't know who I am, that we've been demonetized for 3 years. No, it's made very clear to me in no uncertain terms. This is what's sent out to everybody. And then if you get a strike, meaning a suspension, another 20% reduction. And then another 20% of it happens on Apple. And then another 10% of it happens on Facebook. And then another 10% of it happens on Spotify. Imagine you're deplatformed, as we've seen in the past, where all of the major entities decide to remove you in one day. Rather than having a conservative alternative, you would now be down to 5 to 15% of the revenue of your contract.
Yeah, so I think this is a good time to explain kind of how this works, how I believe it works, and why it's like that, okay? Now, I think Crowder is right in the sense that the way they build those terms definitely incentivizes people to censor themselves to the point where, again, you're going to actively avoid trying to get a strike or to have your content demonetized on, you know, whatever platform. Right? Like, clearly, you know, that is a bad thing. And people are not going to feel good about that. But let me tell you guys from a business perspective why it's like that. The reason why is because the way this stuff works, right, is that what Crowder, it sounds like he's talking about, that contract to me sounds like what he's talking about is that typically, as an independent content creator, you get paid money, specifically from Google, directly to your AdSense account, right? However, when you're a part of a network, let's say you're a part of the Daily Wire, for example, that money doesn't go directly to you anymore as a content creator. If you're now part of the Daily Wire network, which I believe this is how it works for Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, all the other Daily Wire people can this. I'm pretty sure this is how it works. That money from YouTube, Google, goes directly to the Daily Wire. And the Daily Wire uses that money not just to pay you a salary, which now I think probably most of their creators are probably salary plus a certain percentage of whatever they make from their actual channel, right? But they don't just use that money to pay you as the content creator. They use the money to run and operate their business as a whole, right? So the Daily Wire is bigger than just Ben Shapiro, Candace, all these other people that they have. They also have journalists, right? They do investigative reporting. They make movies. They do a lot more than just what you see on YouTube. So that money is not being used directly to pay just them. They're using that money to pay everybody. Regardless of how that creator performs, that creator is going to get a salary from the Daily Wire. Okay? So what happens is let's just say somebody like Ben Shapiro, if he gets a strike, you lose a week's worth of income, right? So now a creator is still getting paid a salary, right? But they're not producing any income for the company. That's why those penalties are there. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just explaining you from a business perspective why it's there. Okay? Now, the thing is that I believe that one of the advantages of being in one of these networks is that somebody like the Daily Wire, for example, is a big enough company where they probably have worked things out with YouTube, and Mark Dice has alluded to this, that it is very hard for somebody on that network to actually get a strike, right? They can literally probably go on YouTube, say something that's against the rules, and probably not get a strike. They'll probably have some internal dialogue between YouTube and the company. They'll say, hey, look, we won't give you a strike as long as you change this, that, and the other, right? So it is very hard for somebody like Ben Shapiro, for Matt Walsh, for Michael Knowles to get a strike. Actually, I've seen videos where Michael Knowles has literally come out and said, yeah, I said this, and my directors, you know, my editors or whatever told me I'm not supposed to say this. I think he said it was something about the vaccine, right? The CDC director said something about the vaccine back when the rules are more strict. He said, yeah, I guess I'm not supposed to say this, even though the CDC director said it. It's against YouTube rules. So, again, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And that also kind of explains why I think Matt Walsh is kind of able to get away with some of the things that he says on his channel that I feel like, in my opinion, I'm like, okay, I think he can get away with a lot more than most people, especially when it comes to this trans issue, is because he's under the protection of the Daily Wire and that they're a big network and that they probably have direct contact at YouTube. So in a realistic scenario, if you're under the Blaze or the Daily Wire or whatever, you're probably not going to get demonetized and you're probably not going to get a strike, right? You probably have to do something super egregious for that to happen, right? That's just my guess. Again, I'm speculating based off my experience and what I've learned doing this, right? Again, I'm somewhat familiar with how these networks work. They claim that they have direct contacts at YouTube so they can help you if you get in trouble. They say, hey, give us some of your revenue, a percentage of your revenue. Or actually, really, they get all of my revenue. And then they say, hey, we'll take a certain percentage off the top and we give you the rest. In exchange for that, we can go to YouTube and we can, talk to them directly if you get a strike or if, something goes wrong, we can help you out. This is what they claim. And also, not to mention, they basically own your rights. Okay, they own your social media. They own your YouTube. Like, so if they say, hey, you're saying something I don't like, right? Or you're putting stuff out that we don't want you to say, they can force you to take it down, right? Like Jordan Peterson, right? Jordan Peterson definitely got forced by the Daily Wire to take that down. Okay, he's like, hey, you can't be promoting somebody that basically is saying they're going to come compete against us. You can't post their video, basically promoting them, right? I mean, that's what happened. And the extent of the ownership goes beyond that. It's merch as well, too. So any type of merch that you sell, all that revenue goes to the network. Okay, this is why, again, if you look at the Daily Wire guys, all their merch is being sold on dailywire.com. Well, why is that? It's because all that belongs to the Daily Wire. Daily Wire owns all that. They'll probably get a little cut of whatever the sales are, but for the most part, most of it goes to the Daily Wire. And then the Daily Wire uses that money to pay their salaries and to pay everybody else's salaries. That's how it works. So what Crowder is basically really saying here is that these contract terms are so unfavorable to content creators that he's basically identified a market, a business opportunity for him to come in and to have a network with more favorable terms that's probably less likely to be censored, okay? And I think that's kind of what's going on here, right? I think that Crowder realizes that, okay, he's made a lot of money with the Mud Club thing, right? He has a whole lot of people that subscribe to that. He's not monetized on YouTube, but he doesn't need to be because he has so many subscribers on his Mud Club who are, reoccurring customers that are paying him. I actually think he gets paid more from that than he got paid from YouTube. I think he kind of realizes, okay, how can I grow my network? How can I grow my audience and expand beyond just that? And one way to do that is through starting your own network. And if he starts his own network and he has content creators that sign up for his network, basically that's kind of a roundabout way of getting access back to that YouTube revenue, but through independent content creators. Because I can imagine that Crowder is trying to set up a network where he's probably going to take some revenue from content creators in exchange for, I don't know, some veil of protection, mentorship, something like that. Okay, I'm just explaining to you guys from a business perspective what I think is going on here. But the honest to God truth is that what Crowder is describing here is basically what probably all of these big networks are doing in this industry, right? And it just so happens that, yes, them setting things up like this is kind of playing into the hands of big tech when, big tech decides to give you a strike or decides to censor you. Not only do you get punished by them, but you're also getting punished by, the company that is supposed to be standing by your side, right? They're supposed to be fighting against, the tyranny, right? But I think what people got to understand here, just to add context, is that it's really all about the advertisers. The reason why Steven Crowder is demonetized is not really because YouTube doesn't want to put ads on his videos. It's because advertisers don't want to put ads on his videos. If YouTube could have it their way, they would put ads on his videos. It's really the advertisers, right? So these big networks, okay, these big companies, Daily Wire, The Blaze, or whatever, they're going to do whatever they can to keep advertisers happy because those advertising dollars are used to support the company as a whole, not just the content creator. When you're independent and you're just supporting yourself and you're running a smaller operation, there is more risk in the sense that if you lose a source of revenue, again, you don't have a whole bunch of other people to help make up for that revenue to keep, you afloat or whatever. But it's not like you have to support a whole bunch of other people. You just got to support yourself. So you can, do other sources of revenue, in order to make up for it. Right. And again, you don't have to, make as much money. You don't have to bring as much money because you're just supporting yourself. Right. So with all that being said, I know that I probably didn't come at this from the angle that a lot of people were expecting, but as somebody that is, I guess, a content creator, when I watched this video from Crowder, I mean, it to me seemed obvious that this was more of a business thing more than censorship and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, censorship is a part of it, but that's not really what's going on here. That's not the real issue. The real issue really is that Crowder is seeing a business opportunity when it comes to how these networks have these unfavorable terms for content creators, and he's trying to look to expand his Mud Club to figure out, well, how can I make my company bigger, right? How can I expand my reach in what I'm doing? Now, again, I watched his whole video. I don't know how he's going to start a network and, support people and also not adhere to, the advertiser-friendly guidelines or not have his creators do that, right? And still be able to support them. Okay, maybe Mud Club is that big, right? Maybe adding more content creators to, have more reach. Maybe he'll get more people to subscribe to Mud Club, and maybe he'll share some of that revenue with content creators. I'm not sure exactly what his business model is going to be. But to me, it seems to be more about that than the whole censorship thing. It just so happens that the subscriber business model, a business model that works well for him, reoccurring revenue outside of advertisers, is actually the best business model that you can have if you don't want to be censored, if you want to be able to say what you want to say, right? If you don't want to have to adhere to the censorship guidelines, then that is the best model that you can have. And it just so happens that Steven Crowder has basically, built up that model to its fullest extent, so it seems, right? He's done that better than anybody in regards to just his own little independent show, probably bringing in millions of dollars a year in just Mud Club subscriptions, which is more than enough to support him and probably the 5 or 6 or 7 employees that he has working for him. So, if he wants to help other creators, create that for themselves, I'm all for it, right? I support him in what he's doing. I commend him for, speaking out and saying, hey, these are some of the unfavorable contracts that, these big companies are having creators sign that is pro-censorship, that puts a muzzle on them. I 100% agree. Contracts is kind of effed up, right? But at the same time, I can kind of see where he's going with this in regards to him trying to say, all right, how can I expand the Mud Club? How can I take on some of these other companies and kind of, expand what I'm doing and to, kind of become bigger than what I am in regards to influence. And I think that's part of what's going on here, right? I think it's a little bit of both. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.